Welcome back to r/NeighborsFromHell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbor Risked Killing Her Own Grandchildren for My Parents' Property." Backstory: this happened in the 1990s. My parents own a 40-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. After 5 years, the trailer next door that was on 2.5 acres went up for sale. The dogs were put in a pen to go outside when the new neighbors were moving in. The husband looked like he killed his own mother and enjoyed it, but the dogs did not even give off a whimper. The wife, when she came up the driveway, the dogs went nuts and wanted to tear into her. Our dogs are not violent, but we came later to understand why. And by the way guys, isn't it that dogs have sort of a sixth sense when it comes to noticing bad people or something? I think I've heard something like this in the past, but I'm not sure. Anyway, my mom, being the nice southern lady that she is, went next door to introduce herself and wanted to know more about the new neighbor. It all seemed well until the wife asked who owns the field behind her house. Mom bashfully replied that it was hers and my dad's. After that, the conversation got awkward and Mom excused herself. A couple of weeks later, Mom and Dad were coming home from shopping and found 3 kids no older than 7 all over our farm equipment. Mom and Dad chased them off to the neighbor house. My mom went over and asked why those kids were over there. They found out it was the neighbor's grandchildren. When Mom told her that they needed to stay away from the farm equipment because one of them will get hurt, she said, "I don't care if one of them gets killed. I want that field one way or the other," pointing to the field behind her house. Mom and Dad immediately called the sheriff and an attorney to find out what they could do to protect themselves. They both said that they needed no trespassing signs every 100 feet if possible, especially where the equipment is normally stored and around the property. When Mom and Dad did that, the signs around the property were disappearing. One time, as Mom was coming down from a tree to put it high up to where they had to come on the property to get it down, a gun blast hit the sign above her head. And off in the distance was the wife yelling smugly, "Oops, I guess my gun went off accidentally." Things cooled down only when my brother came home on weekends from college to watch the house. Plus, my parents made their schedule more random during the week, so the neighbors didn't know if anyone was there or not. However, they were still causing problems like small things disappearing from our yard and them saying that it must be some druggie looking to steal anything for drugs. It was so bad at one point in time that Mom and Dad asked if they could buy their property. The property was worth $50,000 at the time. My parents offered $60,000. The wife said, "Sure, you can get my property at $250,000, take it or leave it." Even my parents' property at the time was not worth that much, so they left it. However, it took a turn for the better 2 years after the offer. The husband wanted a divorce from his wife. This was a grand total of 4 years of dealing with her. Side note, the husband never met my parents until he moved out a week prior. He said his wife told him that my parents, especially my mom, were crazy and for his safety needed to stay away from them after my mom's initial visit. When he finally found out that his wife was the one that was crazy, he left her. About a month after that, the husband came back talking about how the divorce was going and wanted to know if they were interested in the property. They told him about the offer 2 years ago, and he said he never heard about it nor about his grandchildren coming over, hoping that one of them would get hurt, but it didn't surprise him. When we told him how much we offered, he said, "The divorce attorney said that the sale of the house will be split 50-50. I don't care if you offer a nickel, just to spite her." A week after that, the wife came to my parents' house asking if they were willing to buy it at the $60,000 they offered initially. Mom and Dad said that they will buy it at what the appraiser will say it is worth. Because of the depreciation of the trailer and because the wife didn't take care of the trailer, it was appraised at $40,000. Mom was ready to be spiteful and offer $30,000, but Dad disagreed and said that would be a good restart for a guy that had to live through this for all those years. And ripe stars, I gotta say, this story got me thinking, so I'm curious, in America, if you own a large property but you have no trespassing signs anywhere, can people even get in trouble when they trespass on your property, given that you have no trespassing signs anywhere? If anyone knows more about this or maybe even has some personal experiences with this, please let us know in the comments. The next one is titled, "The best revenge is doing well, the better than best is to rub their noses in it." About 15 years ago, I had a horrible boss. This guy was an a-hole and liked it. It went beyond being demanding or easy to anger. He actually took pleasure in trying to humiliate and belittle everyone in every single conversation he had with them. He was a director and let it go to his head. This guy would demand you do something, and when you did it, demand to know who told you to do it. And when you said it was him, he would smile and threaten your job. I avoided him as best as I could. However, at one point a posting in another state opened up and I wanted the job. I asked for and was given said posting. I was told to be in that state in 2 weeks. I broke the lease on my apartment and paid the difference. My wife quit her job. We went out there on our own dime and found a place to live. 2 days before we were set to move, I get the call. It is the a-hole boss. "Don't bother going out there. I have decided to eliminate the posting." I was livid. My life was totally interrupted, and when I complained, I was told I had an attitude problem. I stewed for a few days, but then found a position at another company in the state I wanted to be in and moved out there anyway. I came to find out that eventually this a-hole director took another job at the competition. All went well for a while, but then he got greedy and began negotiations with yet another company using his corporate email address. Like a total idiot. They obviously found out and fired his ass, but the icing on the cake was that the other company he was talking with never gave him the job after all, so there he was, jobless. This was pleasure enough for me, total schadenfreude. Though a friend who knows the a-hole, I found out that he never seemed to get a job after that. 6 months went by, then 12, then 18, and then 2 years, then 4 years. He got poorer and poorer. His hot wife left him and took his children with her. He was sleeping in an empty house which was eventually foreclosed on, and he got kicked out of it. At this point, things get fuzzy, because even my friend didn't know where he was. He may have been in the street, he may have moved in with his aging mother. Meanwhile, my own career had been on an upward arc and I was climbing higher up that corporate ladder. It wasn't long before his resume ended up on my desk. It is a small industry and normally I would have tossed out his application because everyone and their mother in this business knew he was caught courting the competition on the company dime. His reputation as a total ass was well known and the job he applied for was low level. I mean, $10 an hour low level grunt work. He was a former director at 6 figures and now was willing to work bad work at a crappy wage just to feed himself. Anyone would have considered him overqualified, including me. But I had to have him in my office. I wanted to see him on the other side of my desk, asking me for breadcrumbs like a common street beggar. I wanted to see this a-hole who nearly ruined me and a dozen other lives and laughed at it, groveling for a job at my feet. So of course I scheduled an interview. I was going to waste his time like he wasted mine. It was one of the most pleasurable experiences I've ever had. He pretended not to recognize me, but I could see that he did. He had gotten skinnier and reeked of desperation. He had no idea that I knew the whole story, so he lied to me about the whole reason he was out of work, and when I told him exactly why, he looked defeated. I told him I had no place for a liar, let alone an a-hole, and when he tried to shake my hand at the end of the interview, I refused and asked him to leave. There is an old saying, you see the same people on the way down as on the way up. And a user in the comments this time posted a very interesting story, however, a little trigger warning because this story is about bullying, but in the end, the good guy prevails, so I would say it is very much worth reading. The commenter says, I was bullied mercilessly in school, like every single morning from 3rd grade till I eventually quit high school, consisting of me being literally sick to my stomach about the prospect of going to school, and every minute in school was punctuated by abuse, both verbal and physical. This was back when bullying was not yet a thing as it is now. I am 30-ish, so early 90s-ish, and teachers either turned a blind eye or told me to suck it up. Some even participated in the verbal abuse anyway. To make a long story very short and cover the intervening decade or so, I am now doing pretty well. I own a company that I started, I have a net worth of 8 high figures, and I am pretty happy. I work damn hard to get where I am, and I love it. About 6 months ago, we were adding some low-level positions. We have been growing a lot and basically needed people to do some physical work to take the load off the smarter guys and let them be more efficient at their jobs. I have always personally interviewed every single person who works for me, but really, up until this point, every single employee was important to me, and these positions were really not going to be important at all. I almost agreed with the newly hired HR manager to leave me out of these hires, but at the last minute decided, while I would let her lead everything and conduct all the interviews, I wanted to swing by every single one briefly and introduce myself and get a feel. I told her I wouldn't even give an up/down on anyone unless I saw something big stick out, as I didn't want to step on her toes too much. I had done a half dozen of these informal greets one day and got another text saying to drop by for the next one. To set the stage a bit, I don't dress in fancy clothes, though I do drive a number of fancy and/or fast cars, so I looked really nondescript walking into her office. As the candidate turned around to look at me, I realized who he was. Literally the worst out of all of them. I was in school with this guy from 3rd grade till I left the public high school, and every single day of it he made my life hell. He threw me off the top of a slide one time and sent me to a hospital to get stitches. None of the other kids saw anything, and it was determined I was lying and I must have fallen. He looked at me, dressed rather shabbily, and was like, "Whoa man, what are you doing here?" I basically dropped off the map to anyone local after I dropped out of high school, though I did go to an alternate school and got my diploma. I collected my thoughts for a second. Honestly, my first instinct was to tell him off loudly, but I didn't. I calmly extended my hand and said, "Nice to see you, John," not his real name. "I own this company." I forgot exactly what I said after that, but I politely excused myself and walked off. I more or less ran to my office before I lost my composure. I really have not dealt with this crap before and was grabbing for my phone to text back the HR manager and tell her to tell him to F off. I made it to my office before I finished that message and closed the door and seriously had myself a good cry. When I regained my composure, looked at my phone to finish the message and clicked send, and there was a message from the HR lady. "What the hell just happened? After you left, John said to tell you he said he's sorry and then just walked out of the interview." I don't know why, but something about all that, I ended up replying and telling her to call him and give him the job. He's been working here for 6 months now, and I know that every single day when he walks into the building, he needs to walk past whichever of my cars I decided to drive to work that day with the sign CEO Parking. Every single paycheck he gets, he knows it is coming from me, and I could, if I wanted to, just tell him to F off. All of his co-workers, they all know me and sing my praises. I like to think I'm a pretty good boss. I have since heard in a roundabout way that he is seriously confused and a bit effed up about the situation. My revenge? Not only did I become far more successful than any of my tormentors, but I also ended up being the far better man. And ripe stars, ironically enough, this revenge stories buried in the comments is, at least in my opinion, probably one of the most satisfying and best revenge stories we have read in a long time. But I have to say, if I would be in OP's situation, I don't think I would have been as epic as OP in the situation. I probably would have fired the guy instantly or did not allow him to get the job in the first place. Major respect for OP. The next one is titled Revenge on Bridezilla, aka Killing with Kindness. Background: when I got together with my husband, he had a female friend who was basically the queen of one of his friend groups. I was never really close to her, but I liked her well enough even though we were very different. She is more girly, I am more tomboy. Fast forward 6 years and she and her longtime BF are getting married. Another thing you should know is that none of us are super rich. In fact, the Lovebirds are just a tad bit on the ghetto side. Bridezilla's mom, however, thinks her baby walks on water and they plan a classy wedding. Confusing classy with expensive. Thus begins the horror of this year plus engagement, or as I like to call it, the money grab. These people have been living together for going on 7 years, but they are going for the full white wedding. By full I mean 2 engagement parties, one with an addendum that no gifts are to be purchased, instead we should bring cash for the money tree, 2 bridal showers including another money tree, and an out-of-town bachelorette party. In addition, a bridesmaid's tea at a fancy tea shop where the bridesmaids paid as a gift to the MOTB. Various ladies' nights where whichever poor girls showed up were slave labor for enforced craft time like making favors and tying 200 ribbons for hand-engraved invitations. Not to mention, they were all potluck and bring your own bottle, so we didn't even get free food because Bridezilla can even throw together some cheese and damn crackers. At this time my husband and I were really struggling financially, so this constant spending was hard and the guilt was constant.
Oh OP, I made you one of my 12 bridesmaids out of respect for your relationship with my oldest friend. What do you mean you cannot take 2 unpaid days off of work and spend $500 for my weekend-long bachelorette party?
Cue tears and phone calls to my husband and other bridesmaids asking why I don't like her. I learned that due to the honor of being one of 12 bridesmaids, I would be forced to spend $275 on an ugly navy blue rayon monstrosity from one of the city's most expensive bridal salons. What the hell? It was the definition of never wearing again and probably cost $2 to make in China. And we had to find navy blue pumps to go with. Finally, we get close to the wedding, which means shelling out money for gifts, because the Lovebirds have registered every damn place. They are treating this like the Price is Right. They registered for computers and flat screen TVs. They registered for 2000 thread count sheets to go in their ghetto apartment, and finally they registered for fancy china. I think that china is what finally sent me over the edge. Bridezilla does not cook, Bridezilla does not even have a table in her apartment, Bridezilla does not have storage big enough for the 12 place settings she registered for. And I will be damned if I pay $38 for a salad bowl for anyone. So I find myself with another bridesmaid who is also mightily sick of this crap, standing in Macy's looking over the registry, and I get a bright idea. I ask a sales lady to help me find the most useless cheap kitchen stuff on this list, and thus begins grudge gifting. We track down every useless thing on the list and we price check it to see where we can find the exact thing cheapest. Special air vented pizza pan for making your Red Baron extra crispy? Check. Countertop mini cupcake maker in the shape of a cupcake that makes 7 mini cupcakes. A cupcake pan costs like $5 and this thing $27. Yep. Countertop fajita maker shaped like a chili pepper? Chickadee check. Soon we have a pile of stuff that is made for garage sales. This is stuff that no one uses and it is all from the registry. We would buy all this stuff at Macy's and thus getting it off the registry. Then we go back to Walmart and Target and buy the same stuff. And then we go back to Macy's and return the expensive stuff but neglect to give the part of the receipt that says it's from registry, so it's checked off. Bridesmaid 2 and I take it home and wrap it all individually so that we have 2 towers of beautifully wrapped crap. Crap that we have scraped the price tags off of, stuff that we have neglected to attach the gift recipes for, and all crap that was specifically requested. We show up at the wedding and do our duty, everyone oohs and ahs, and when we set our very pretty towers of stuff on the gift table, after the wedding we immediately go and change into non-horrible dresses and shoes and shove our combined $600 worth of navy blue dresses and shoes in a paper sack for immediate donation to Goodwill. We get our drinks from the cash bar and top them off from the flasks that we wisely snuck in. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Bridezilla trying to tactfully inquire about gift receipts. Weren't they in there? I could have sworn I put them in there. Let me look around the house. Couple months after that, a very polite thank you note. A month ago, they had a garage sale. Every single item was out for sale, including a very dusty 7-portion cupcake maker. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.